what is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the second project of 2016 by Darby Trill. Basically, this product is called Blood, Guts, and a Whole Lot of Love, and it came out in the fall of 2016. So the thing about this particular product here is just the fact that Darby Trill is pretty low-key within the sense. He kind of came on the scene like the Juggalo sense, particularly a super underground type fairy. It's more low-key than even Ouija Macc is within some of those type fairies. Now, Ouija Macc nowadays is a lot more higher up within the pitch, at least within the Juggalo type fold, but basically, I feel like circa like the mid-late 2010s forward, it feels like Darby Trill is like a pretty large sentinel within like the Juggalo type format of that particular fold, like how some of those eras kind of came up, and within the same vein and fashion as Ouija Macc within some of those type tones. He's done some collaboration projects, one of which was with Ouija Macc, which I want to say came out in early 2024 from what I remember, some pitches like that. It's a good type fare here. If you thoroughly enjoy Ouija Macc, this is a good type cat to check out within some of those type pitches. Now, he has some pretty ghastly names on here. He has a lot more sadism within the pitch behind a lot of this. Is a lot more manic and really off the deep end in terms of like the aspect of like some of that catastrophe types, really off the deep end in terms of some of that type manicness, just in a real horrorcore type blend. This is like horrorcore to like a T. When you think of folks like Isham and when you think of some of the more demonic type folks like Isham and Brother Lynch Hung and like Necro, some of those type folks within the particular fair about it. This is a cat that just every song on here, just to name some of the examples, like I'm not going to name these names on like the usual when I get to the descriptions of some of these songs, but there's some ones on here that these are the actual names of some of these songs. Like I accidentally stepped on a decomposing squirrel and got guts. Like I accidentally stepped on a decomposing squirrel and got guts on my shoes. And then there's another one, I can see the disappointment in my cat's eyes when he looks at me. In the valley of the mutilated corpses, I found the dog-headed man. So there's just the ones on here that just don't typically have like song formats. Pretty similar to like Fall Out Boy, just a little bit more horrific type sense within the aspect. Just some real shrill type stuff that would feel ripped out of like a Stephen King book or some folks like that within the tone behind it. I like the ghastliness. Easily enough, this album's going to get a 10 out of 10. Just like back in those days, Ouija Macc has some pretty good knockouts, and even today he has some knockout type albums within the pitch. These are just classic type appeals here. Really like a shot in the arm compared to a lot of stuff that's going on. This is demonic. This is a good sense of like some concepts. Just a left field type product. It just is like an original type factor. Just the concept behind this dude is refreshing and energizing within the pitch as far as getting this here. Now the public relations factor about this product is pretty off to the wayside. I mean, minus one song on here, which I would say is just like, you look like the ironic thing about this song, the most chart appealing type one, is a song that's called "You Look Like You Would Be Fun to Dismember," but it's within the pitch. That's the only real pop rap type grab on here, but it's just within the pitch that I would say that basically Darby Trill is still amongst like the horrific type times that get more classic albums out before crafting into like more mainstream type format. Now he did start to meld a little bit later. I remember one of his albums that came out I think in late 2024 was called Garden. And then he had a pretty good, like, I think he was signed to like Psychopathic Records or something like that, at least Ouija Macc sub label back in 2023. So he dropped the product. There's some folks I know about on YouTube where he particularly had some of those type albums that I paid attention to. Was just within the pitch as far as saying, so this cat was a buzzing type cat, one of the ones, like I said, one of the more notable sentinels out of like the Juggalo type movement of like the early 2020s and the late 2010s as far as this first gonna happen. But he's had a number of these albums. He has plenty of these to get to. But the thing about some of these, just kind of the concept behind it, I just look within the tone as far as saying the pitch. Some of these are a little bit trickier to find. Like one in particular, I wasn't able to find Ulcer anywhere, and Freezing Cold and Dripping with Sweat was a project I talked about in a community post back in 2024, but I was never really able to find that project. Kind of disappeared. So it's just been the pitch. I want to say it was on his SoundCloud back in the day. It was just kind of within the concept, but just look after. There's just some real gas type formats within a lot of this. So it's just within the pitch. But yeah, basically every one of these 13 songs on here I recommend just within the pitch. So just to get to some of these, it's just simple enough concept to say this album gets a 10 out of 10. So I would say there's not really a single off this project. I feel like within that format, I'm not as full bound sure of within these initial type products. If he was signed to a label, it's probably something more within like an off to the wayside type sense, like Ouija Macc in his early days, or Tech Nine with Strange Music, some of those type fairs that I had to say. But I'm going to talk about at least two songs within the single type format. Basically, the most popular song, most of this album on Spotify does not have much more than 4 digits worth of plays. Like these average out to about 2,000, 2,500, 3,500 hits, some of those type fairs within the pitch behind it. But the most popular song, strangely enough, on here that has like almost 100,000 plays, which is easily like the social kind of highlight of this album, is Warlock Place. So talk about this one, it's like a glitzy kind of night energy and like a horrorcore sense that I'd say here. Just some feral turnip I'd have suppose, just a real good feral turnip spice that I'd say, just demonic type song. There's some ones on here, particular ones I'd had to say, like I want to say like one, like Who Left This Dead Dwarf in My Trunk, as far as this person gonna have. Some of these type ones, Warlock Blades, Dead Dwarf, some of these type ones in particular. There's like another one on here that has that particular type of appeal. I'd probably say a little bit of I Can See the Disappointment in My Cat's Eyes, some of those particular type ones. I just feel like something Ouija Macc would kind of do. I think it was in the Valley of the Mutilated Corpses. So some of those type pitches just feel like something like Galoshes by Ouija Macc. Some of those type pitches of those particular type songs that just feel like Urinal. Some of those type ones that Ouija Macc would kind of do with just that demonic type flair. It's really feel like backyard kind of powwow type music to really get tripped out to and have some hella good smokage within the fair behind it. Something real knocked out like White Rhino. Some of those type pitches. Just some real good smoke fest. Blueberry Kush. Some of those type tones to really get tripped out to. It's good type fest for that. But then a song that I feel like probably could have been a pretty good pop rap type grab. Now I realize getting Darby Trill back in those days in like the forefront probably would have been pretty aghast just because the concept just any of these song titles that are not really fit for radio. You can see some radio broadcasts you're talking about. So bringing to you in the next 5 minutes, I accidentally stepped on a decomposing squirrel and got guts on my shoes. It'd be pretty manic to kind of get that at like 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that. But just within the pitch as far as saying it's just kind of the concept. I would say here that basically one particular one that does feel like a relative radio grab within at least the production fare of it would be You Look Like You Would Be Fun to Dismember. This like a relative pop rap kind of radio grab I'd have to say here. Just glitzy feel about it, good for cruise runs just within the pitch behind it. So yeah, I would say You Look Like You Would Be Fun. It's a real nice one to get some of that type of feel. So it's a good concept. I do feel like Darby Trill, he's a pretty good like marksman in terms of some of these concepts are really getting like these song formats. Despite the fact that the radio type appeal of this particular product is a lot more low key, a lot of these songs on this composition are pretty widespread, and it has the concept I would say more like Ouija Macc's a little bit more demonic in terms of getting fucked up. So if you're really looking for smoke fest, drink fest, some of that type of really getting shit faced, some of that type of time, so Ouija Macc has that. But the songwriting on this particular product is pretty good, just within a horrorcore type sense. It has adaptations to some of this. I was surprised by some of these post-grunge numbers on here. Like the first 3 songs you hear on this particular product are pretty glazed within the sense it's moody type factors that really feel like emo kind of horrorcore, which is some excellent type fare, just kind of post-grunge dredge, some of that typeness. There's some headshot type music like Skullfucked by a Chalet. I'm not sure how to say that word. I should have looked it up, but Shalala. I don't know. That's a real strange word. Just within pitch, to kind of look within the fashion of it. There's some new metal songs in here. There's one that really feels like something that Fred Durst would have done. Is a good type pitch for that. I Can See the Disappointment. And then I would also say a rotten dead body in a trailer park bathroom is kind of one that has some new metal type feel. So this is pretty widespread within the concept of getting a lot of this particular type flair. Some real good aspects just within the pitch behind. So this has a composition just like real scuzzy type feelings, but this nails within the aspect just like a dredgy type day. So this more Red Skies type days, I'd say, within the pitch. It's really a hellish type album within the pitch. It is something feels just rooted in like October, but just within the concept of just being throughout the rest of the year within it. Just kind of the concept of just like that slag type factor. Going up for air on this particular album is just kind of the concept that this is kind of slaggish, demonic type music, but it just takes like October life and then just applies it to like February and April and June and some of those type times just in the pitch. It's just underground type fare outside of autumn as far as this pitch can happen. It just does that particular pitch. And I look after here just being able to say that not only does it do that, but it also does it like Ouija Macc. When I reviewed some of his albums, the pitch behind him was just the concept that a lot of it was more demon time type fare when you think of things between like probably 6:30 p.m. once work is completely done, those type pitches where you've completely switched to flip mode from 6 o'clock p.m. to probably about 6 o'clock in the morning, just those particular living type times. Some of this type stuff is amidst like this demon time type fashion of like getting some of that kind of slag of just like horrorcore, but just kind of within a sense of like 4 o'clock p.m. or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 11 o'clock in the morning. There's some pitches like that. It's not just 1 o'clock a.m. pitches like that where the stores are going to be closed, some of those type fairs. It's actually within the concept of just like a pretty actual commercial, this circa what Juggalos were kind of up to in like 2016, 2018, some of those type fairs, I'd say. So it's just the concept about that. But some of the first 3 songs you hear on here, one particular one that's real excellent just within the affability behind it is Feels Like Shit. It's like a moody kind of evening slag to kind of get here, just a nice horrorcore kind of emo, I'd say, within those senses. It's kind of a musty day, get throwed song to kind of get within these pitches here. Very song to sip a few cold beers to, something like that particular tone, just for like that scuzzy type feeling and just the after effects of it. And this is a good song to cruise around to within the pitch. So a little bit of post-grunge type fare, but just more slag type feeling within the pitch. Just something alternative, but just within the aspect more in a horrorcore type sense. Good discomposition, that particular one. And another one that goes pretty similar with that, another good glaze type one, like a more sullen type sense, would be Hungover and Burnt Out in Nagasaki. It's like a contemplative kind of horrorcore. It's like contemplative kind of horrorcore, I'd say here, just a foresty kind of crisp day, I'd say, within those pitches. Definitely something for like October, just within the pitch, just more kind of hoodie, jacket type music. Good, some real excellent smoke fun as far as this first can happen. So it's good type tone. Another one just within those contexts would be What Boils Faster, My Water. Another one just like that would be What Boils Faster, Water or My Blood. This has some bass thump about this particular one, just some evening malaise kind of get here, just very post-grunge just in the pitch, just with like some thump about it. It's like some drudgy kind of post-work fun to kind of get within those aspects. Yeah, like I was saying, Skullfuck by Shalila, I'd say it's like a twisted kind of headshot feeling, kind of slag torment to kind of get here. Just Red Eyes music, I would definitely feel like here, just kind of some drifting just amongst the aspects. So just picking up like some smoke, it's like a headshot, some of those type fair, getting like some incense, some of those particular type tones. Just kind of the concept, basic kind of steadfast kind of mingle, just in the sense, it's kind of the concept, but it's getting like some supplies, some of that type fair, just more left field, kind of more alternative, more Bob Marley type places within some of those type aspects, just between not so much like vanilla places, more like Walmart, something like that, but just kind of the aspect, this kind of extra type places, maybe pawn shop type material, some of those type places where it would be a little bit more barter and mingle in mind. Just kind of the composition behind a good type tones, get like a pipe, something like that. They probably call them water pipes just in those tones, at least before, you know, marijuana was legal, some of those type pitches. But just within the tone, it's looking after a good type one for some of that scuzzy type feeling within it. And I would say, in the Valley of the Mutilated Corpses, I found the Dog-Headed Man. This is like, this one has some hella bass about this one. This hella bass thump, but I'd say a good party gem to kind of get here. Just reminds me definitely of Ouija Macc, some of those type tones within it. So it's a good type concert for some of those type ones that he would have for some of that buzzing type factor. Like I was talking about some of those type ones, like, I forget the name of the song I listed, but some of those type ones like Galosh, oh yeah, like Urinal, some of those type ones in particular. Just good type tones for that. Just one of those buzzing, just powwow type, shindig type ones that have some smoke fest. The Voices of Children is a quality one. Now this is the Voices of Children heard through the TV static. This is like a real, or the Voices of Children is like a ghoulish kind of after hours get togethers that I'd say here. Another smoke fest type one to kind of get within those senses, just some ghost story fun to kind of have within those aspects. So just kind of a commotion, a little bit more sociality, a little bit more socialness in mind just within the concept, just a little bit more hangout type fair. We're just having some chat just in the concept, but just more standard gabs, some of those type pitches. I mean, it has the smoke fest there, but just kind of it's kind of a composition, having some good times within the aspect of just further moments, just having some further moments to kind of get things unwinded as far as this pitch kind of having, just breaking the ice and just getting past like the initial kind of just melding as far as this pitch can have. So it's good type tone. Real nice one on here would be I Can See the Disappointment in My Cat's Eyes When He Looks at Me. It's like a jivey kind of sadistic gnarled turn up to kind of get here. Just reminds definitely of Limp Bizkit, so it's a good type pitch for this one. So yeah, I'd say songs like I Can See the Disappointment are just further kind of Ouija Macc similar type songs, just in the pitch behind as far as those fairs gonna happen. Good type tone for some of those. And say a rotten dead body in a trailer park bathroom's a nice one here. It's like a great Friday unwind to kind of get within those aspects. Just a vintage kind of new metal hit, I'd have to say, and just an overall crazy type one. So it's just kind of within the pitch as far as those formats kind of happen with it. Just a good type tone for some of those type ones. So I do like some of these new metal kind of more Korn and Slipknot and Limp Bizkit type fairs within the pitches to how some of these type ones kind of happen. This is a good type one. Just some good gnarledness kind of get here. Pretty similar to Who Left This Dead Dwarf in My Trunk. I think I talked about this one. I'm going to talk about it again. This kind of concept, this is just the pitch as far as saying it's like a leery and creeping kind of vintage haunt licks kind of get about this particular song. Just some good turn up kind of get here. So just really some grandiose type horrorcore type music just within the concept, like a little bit alternative metal tinge within some of these type ones. This really feels like you're tripped out just within the pitch behind it. At least the particular song Who Left This Dead Dwarf in My Trunk. So it's good type one. This vintage Korn like pitches like that. Marilyn Manson, Mushroom Head, Orgy, some of those type folks within the pitch behind it. It's good turn up for that. It's pretty good fashion for like some backyard kind of thrills, just smoking out in the woods. Some of those type pitches, just more rural type senses within the pitch behind a good concept for a lot of these. Abracadabra, Now You're in a Plastic Bag Full of Guts is a nice one, as well as like a demonic kind of trip out night activity kind of get here. Just some just the Hellraising bop kind of have within those particular senses about it. So it's just a good type pitch for some of these. Probably one of the most ghoulish, or probably one of the most feral type ones within pitch. I'd say this one, I'd say this works like a pretty good 1-2 punch with Warlock Blades as far as those fairs gonna have. So it's just a good aspect for some of that just feral type turn on, just more Ouija, just kind of more Ouija board and just kind of more just demonic type surfing within the pitch behind. Just some get-togethers just within the fashion, a little bit more hair-raising pitches like that. So it's a good type tone. Then I would say I accidentally stepped on a decomposing squirrel and got guts on my shoes. I accidentally stepped on a decomposing squirrel and got guts on my shoes is a nice one as well. It's like a twisted kind of mess hall, local kind of hangout jazz kind of get here. So it's just within the pitch. I accidentally stepped on decomposing squirrels, just a little bit more of like a leery type one. This feels like ripped out of a horror movie like The Shining, some of those type pitches where it'd be like a manic type moment, just kind of an in-between type gesture just within the pitch behind it. It's kind of the composition, really seeing like the twistedness of like a film or something like that. So it's a good type concept, get some of that horrorcore. I just like the aspect, a lot of the variety type stuff. I mean, it could have just been like a full-blown shot in the arm and just getting hella tore up, but it also takes it to like the twisted, side of things as far as those pitches kind of happen, just kind of the aspect of appreciating horrorcore and getting the concept of like the demonicness listed, just kind of having some manic type fare. So it's just pretty, I would definitely say, you know, Darby O'Trill's pretty similar to folks like Marilyn Manson and Jonathan Davis, some of those type folks that really take you within that trip of like the manicness of just like the frantic of how that particularly goes. So it's a good concept. So just more fashion. Some of these are just vehicle knock, like not the like Ouija Mac's pretty ghastly as well, but just had more vehicle knock and more just get tore up type sense. But this actually has like the manicness of this probably be a more traditional kind of horrorcore type product. That this is more like, you know, Brother Lynch Hung and Esham and like folks like I listed like Necro, some of those type folks. It's just when the pitch just a little bit more traditionalist, clean cut type fare within the pitch behind it. But I look after it definitely nails it. So that's the pitch behind it. So this album's, I think I talked about every song in here as far as this fair is going to happen just within pitch. So yeah, I'd have to say this album gets a 10 out of 10. Recommend all 13 songs within pitch behind it here. The social score I'll go ahead and give like a 9.5. Now I think this album is pretty much available on iTunes or Amazon, some of those type places to be able to get it digitally. It seems less likely that it's available on CD, and if it is, it might be more expensive like with Ouija Macc and those particular type fares, but it is pretty low key. Like I'd be surprised if this album even sold like 6,000 copies, especially 8-9 years later within some of those type pitches just within time. It's not to say like it's not good enough to sell that many, but it's just kind of constant. It's just very low key within the sense. I mean, I still feel like Darby O'Trill is just kind of finding his ground nowadays, just within the fair behind us. So it's just within the pitch. He's kind of rising up in the ranks, going from like a more, he wasn't a pawn on like the chessboard, but I don't remember the pieces like a bishop or like a rook or some of those type ones, but he's definitely higher up on like the juggalo chess table than he was like 9 years ago. So he's getting up there just within the pitch behind. I just have to suppose about that. It was a good type tone. It's being able to say, so social score gets a 9.5. There's plenty of ones on here just within those pitches as far as those aspects kind of have them with it. There's some, I like the malaise type songs. I definitely like some of these solemn type ones. It's really showcases an aspect that's pretty good. That's just a different taste of things compared to what Ouija Macc typically kind of does. Not so like he couldn't do this, but just from the pitch, good aspect. Kind of get some of that post grunge kind of malaise on here. Some of the turn up songs are real excellent. Just the feralness really getting tore up more so than like the pitch. When you pay attention to some of these folks like Ouija Macc and Darby O'Trill, they're really getting tore up around this particular time. So this is definitely something with like a warning label as far as saying that you probably could have to really watch like the concept of getting tore up to this particular one because it just has the damage within it. This is kind of the concept here, but it's just kind of the pitch behind it. There's plenty of tore up type moments, and it does it within a ghastly kind of horrorcore. Type fashion, just circa the whole year as far as this first happens. So it's just good type tone, just more low key, but it has some moments for a little bit of pop rap on here, a little bit of breakthrough, but just you have to understand that's pretty manic. So it's just kind of tone. But look after. So in terms of the future, like Darby O'Trill has put out a project. He might have actually already put out a project in 2025. I'm not really sure. He had like a collaboration project he was working on. One of the YouTube channels I fuck with might have said something about that. But look within the pitch. I know he dropped an album called Garden like in the fall of 2024. So there's some ones like that within some of those type pitches. If I could find like the 2017 project, which is called, I know I would probably wind up giving Freezing Cold and Dripping with Sweat probably like a 10 out of 10. It's probably the same thing with Ulcer. I'd like to get to some of those type ones, but within the pitch, just some good type products here. Just 10 out of 10 product, easy blistering type one, easy enough to recommend. I would say, even despite the fact if you haven't heard of this cat and don't know a thing about him, I would still fuck with it because it definitely has some pretty twisted type stuff and overall feralness that works extremely well.